What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So it's been about, I want to say maybe 2 weeks since I uploaded a Heartstopper review, and I truly apologize for that. My 911 videos have been doing really well, so I kind of just wanted to put some of those out, especially since last week we didn't get a 911 episode. So I want to keep getting these Heartstopper reviews out for you guys. I also want to eventually be able to watch season 3, so we need to keep pushing through season 1. We're going to be finishing season 1 today, and then we will immediately get into season 2 in my next review. Today we are going to be reviewing the last 2 episodes, which is episodes 7 and 8 of season 1 of Heartstopper. So that's pretty much it for this intro, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, so starting off with episode 7, we pretty much start out this episode with Charlie about to leave his house, and his sister comes into his room and asks him where he's going, and he tells her that he's going to the movies with Nick and his friends. At first he's a little worried because she knows how the rugby team is and what kind of people they are, even though she doesn't even go to Truman. She still knows. But Charlie reassures her that like he'll be fine because Nick's gonna be there. And she starts like teasing him about Nick because obviously she knows that he has a crush on him. And he ends up telling Tori that him and Nick are going out. And I love this. I just love that they're now allowing themselves and each other to like start telling people that they're going out. Not necessarily like everybody they go to school with, but obviously the people that they care about the most. So like their family and their friends. So once Charlie and Nick meet up at the movie theaters, they're like on their way to meet up with their friends, or Nick's friends. And Charlie's just like nervous because he knows how the rugby team is, and he knows that not all of them, you know, accept him for who he is and things like that, and they make fun of him. But his main concern is Harry. Nick pretty much reassures Charlie that like Harry's not going to be there, he's not going to be an issue.
Are you sure your friends are going to be okay with me being here? Yeah, of course. We'll be fine. Ben and Harry will come.
Well, lo and behold, when they finally meet up with them at the concession stand, guess who's there? And immediately starts making fun of them as soon as he sees them. Harry.
Nick and his best mate. Wait, why are you even bringing him? Oh, just look him.
And it's, oh my god, like this man makes me so mad. And I like want to know what his deal is so bad. And like, because this whole season he's just been like a douchebag, and like, you know, like the antagonist, there's multiple antagonists like in this, but like he's been one of the main antagonists. And I still, like I said, in season 2, we still don't really know what his deal is. He gets a little bit better in season 2 when it comes to like holding his friends accountable when they do something wrong, specifically Ben. We all know, I mean, I'm sure all of you have seen season 2 and you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. But that, and also he kind of like pulls back on his bullying just a little bit in season 2, but in this season he was just so insufferable, and I just would love to get some information on his backstory, if there's something he's dealing with like at home or internally or something like that. I just need to know because I don't understand. Once they meet up with them, Nick and Charlie go to the concession stand, and Nick is asking Charlie if he wants any type of snacks or anything. And now that Charlie knows Harry's there, he feels really uncomfortable because he knows that Harry's always gonna give him a hard time. So he tells him he doesn't want any snacks, but like he can get something. And Nick immediately picks up on this because he knows that Charlie feels uncomfortable. And this is just a really cute mention, but he ends up giving him a nickname.
Char, are you okay? I honestly had no idea they'd be here. I wouldn't have suggested we come for them.
Obviously, Charlie doesn't let this slide. Like, I think it's the only thing he heard. I don't think he heard anything else after the nickname. He doesn't start making fun of Nick, but he's just like, you just gave me a nickname. He's like, Nick's super embarrassed about it. It's really cute. Oh, they make me depressed. I can't even lie. I also don't, because I watched these 2 episodes last night as I was typing up these notes, and this might be TMI, I don't really care. I just came on my period yesterday. I don't recommend watching Heartstopper when you just started your period, because I get really emotional, and I was like, I'm gonna crash out. Like, this is too much and I'm so lonely and single. So I really don't recommend it, but I had to do it for you guys. So don't ever say I don't do anything for you guys. Anyways, back to the review. So they end up, going into the movies and they're watching the movie, and they end up going to see some type of horror movie. And during the jump scares, like, Nick accidentally goes to, like, hold Charlie's hand, and he realizes, like, oh, like, I can't hold your hand because of, like, who we're with. So he removes his hand and he apologizes. I think it was actually Nick that initiated the hand holding again, just to see if, like, Charlie was okay with holding hands. And he held his hand back, and he calls him a dork. Like, they're so focused on Harry that they don't even realize they have another person to worry about here, which is Ben. So once they're done with the movie, they're walking out, and like Charlie and Nick are like bantering about who got scared the most or whatever. And then of course Harry sees them talking and decides he wants to give Charlie a hard time, as always. So he goes up to Charlie and he's just asking him a bunch of weird questions about his sexuality.
Quick question. What's it like being gay? What sort of guys do you like then? I don't know. What about Harry Styles? He's pretty sexy.
I just find it funny that he brought up Harry Styles. I laugh every time I see that scene, but I'm like, not because he's funny, but because out of all people he brought up Harry Styles. I don't know why. Then he accuses Charlie of having a crush on Nick. Obviously Charlie doesn't want to out Nick, especially to Harry. Are you kidding? So he has to say something that will make it believable that he is not interested in Nick. So he turns around to Harry and he's like,
Are you joking? Nick's not even my type.
I don't think Nick takes this personally, even though like when they pan to his face he looks hurt, but he knows why he said that. Like, he obviously, they're going out, so he knows that Charlie likes him, but I guess it was just the ease in which he lied. It was like crazy. Eventually, like, Nick steps in and he's like, can you just like stop, like this is so unnecessary. And then when he turns back around he sees Charlie like heading out the door. So then obviously Nick goes after Charlie, and this scene always makes me, this is why I'm so like, what is Harry's deal? Because his face when he sees that Nick goes after Charlie, it's not like he's not smiling like, oh my god, I got him so good. He looks mad, or at least irritated, because he's looking after Nick and his face is just so like deadpan serious. And I'm like, what was going on? Like, what was going on in his head? Like, what is his deal? I need to know. Like, oh my god, I like, don't tell me if you've seen season 3, but I just really hope, if nothing else, we get at least a little more information on Harry. I just need to know what is his back, like what's going on. So obviously Nick goes after Charlie. He runs outside and Charlie's like, oh, my dad's here, I have to go. And Nick obviously is apologizing. He's like, we should have just left. Like, as soon as we saw Harry was here, we shouldn't have been here. And Charlie's way of reassuring Nick that he's fine is just saying, I'm used to it at this point. And like, that might be true. It probably is, because like, you know, we know that the rugby team has been bullying Charlie even before he started talking to Nick, which is why Tao was so protective of him in the first place when it came to the rugby team. But Nick doesn't like the fact that Charlie says this. He doesn't say anything in this specific moment, but he doesn't like the fact that Charlie is like, oh, I'm used to it, because he's like, that's not an excuse for them to treat you like that. So once Charlie says this, he's like, I'll see you at school, and he starts walking to his dad's car because his dad's here to pick him up. And Nick doesn't go after him at this point. He just goes back inside. But while Charlie is walking towards his dad's car, his dad wasn't here at this point, but I think he just wanted to get away from the situation. But as he's walking into the parking lot, Ben appears. Now, where did he come from? I don't know, because I'm like, why was he not inside with the rest of them? Like, he was just outside waiting for Charlie. I don't know. That was weird, because I'm like, did he know that his dad was coming to pick him up at this specific time? Weird. I have no clue. But Ben comes up to him and confronts him about Nick and him going out.
Are you going out with him then?
No.
You are getting with him.
And the only reason he suspects this is because he caught them holding hands during the movie. Which is why I was like, they're so focused on Harry catching them that they don't even know they have someone else to worry about, which is Ben. Because if you look back at that scene, most of them are sitting in the same row. So if like Nick and Charlie are here, Harry's on this, like all the way over here on this row. But Ben is sitting right over top of them, if you look back at the scene. So I'm like, he's gonna see. Like, he has to have seen. It's just funny to me. Ben is like, well, I believe that you're not going out because who would want to date someone like you? And it's just funny to me that Ben's actions are so telling that he still cares, because he tries to convince Charlie that he never liked him and that he just felt sorry for him because, like, he was like, I'm not even gay. I just felt sorry for you. Like, and I'm like, your actions are so telling, because if you really didn't care, why are you like cornering him at parties, following him in parking lots, like texting him, meet up with me so we can talk? Like, dude, like, I get because Ben has installed this insecurity in Charlie that no one will actually want him. But if I was Charlie, I would be like, dude, if you don't care, why do you keep talking to me? Why do you keep coming up to me and being like, oh my god, what do you, like, why do you care who I'm going out with? Why do you, like, like, I'm just like, dude. And he gets so heated. Like, he's never calm about it. He gets so heated and in Charlie's face every time he, like, talks to him about, I don't like you. I never liked you. And I'm like, okay, bud. Okay, buddy. Like, that's, I totally believe you. So after this, Charlie's dad pulls up. And obviously he realizes that something's wrong. So he's like, are you ready to go? And Charlie's like, yeah. So he gets in the car. And Ben walks away to go back into the building, and Charlie's dad asks him, like, is everything fine? He's like, yeah, everything's okay. And his dad doesn't press it anymore because he's not crying. So he's just like, okay, like, obviously he doesn't want to talk about it. So he doesn't press him for information. So going back to Nick, once Nick goes back into the movie theater, he confronts Harry. And
Go on then. What's your problem with Charlie?
He doesn't exactly fit in with us, does he?
So at this point, Nick has like had it with Harry's behavior, because he's been pretty much saying that he doesn't want to be friends with these people anymore, specifically Harry, because he's just mean for no reason. And ever since he started like becoming friends with Charlie and going out with him, he's realized, like, I don't really need. And he's also been becoming friends with Charlie's friends and like getting closer to Tara and Darcy. So he's just like, these are so much better people than my friend group, and I don't know why I've stayed friends with them for so long. He tells Harry, he's like, you
made him so uncomfortable with your gay questions.
Someone really needs to learn to take a joke.
No, you weren't joking though, were you?
And my thing is, I'm like, one, he's not joking, but two, even if you say something, like, in real life, if you say something to someone, and even if you do mean it as a joke but it hurts their feelings, they have every right to feel the way they feel. So if I said something and I meant it as a joke, and my friend or whoever came to me and was like, hey, like, I know you probably were like joking, but like that really hurt my feelings, I'm going to apologize. Even if I meant it as a joke, I'm not gonna invalidate your feelings and say, it was just a joke, calm down. I'm gonna be like, I'm so sorry, that was not my intention at all. Like, yeah, I did mean it as a joke, but like, clearly you didn't take it that way, so I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. Oh, so simple. Like, why are we not emotionally intelligent anymore? Like, it's just really weird to me. So then Harry starts taunting Nick, and Nick held back a lot longer than I would have, because he starts pushing him backwards.
Aw, you're getting so angry. You can't help wanting to protect him, can you?
And then he makes the terrible mistake of calling Charlie the F slur, which just sends Nick off the rails.
Because he's a pathetic little fag.
And then this spirals into them getting into a fight, and their friends start like try to break it up or whatever. But something else I wanted to mention, because I kind of sped past it, was when Nick first goes to confront Harry, he's like, what's your problem with Charlie? You can see in the back, like, the rest of the friends. There are some friends that are laughing along with Harry and things like that, but then there's also friends that aren't laughing. And they know that Harry's behavior is wrong, but like, as we know, especially in like high school, and I've said this in another video that I did for 911, men and boys crave male validation. So even if they know that Harry's behavior is wrong, they're not going to stand up to him and be like, dude, that's not cool. Even though they should, they're not going to, because they crave male validation and they know that if they do, they're just going to get the same treatment as Nick. So that's really unfortunate when it comes to things like that, but it's the way the world is, unfortunately. So after the fight, Nick's mom ends up coming to pick him up, and she asks him about it, and he just basically tells her that his friends have been awful for a long time and they've been bullying Charlie, and like specifically he tells her why the fight started is because Harry used a really bad word to describe Harry, which we know is the F slur. And his mom obviously reprimands him because she's like, fighting is not the answer, but once he tells her that, she immediately understands and she's like, oh, okay, like I see. And it's at this point that I'm still shocked that she doesn't pick up on Nick and Charlie's relationship, because she's like, Charlie's a really special friend, isn't he? And I'm just like, how did you not? Like, I feel like my first time watching it, I was like, oh, she knows. But she didn't. Because the next day at school, Charlie's coming, like walking into the building, and Harry, of course, starts picking on him again. And he sees that Harry has like a busted lip, and he's like, what happened to you? And he tells him that, you know, Nick started a fight with him for no reason and that he was just joking. He's like, you know, I was just joking, right? Whatever. I also find it interesting that because after this, Tao comes up and he thinks that like Harry's bullying Charlie, so he's like, are you okay? What's going on? And at the movie theaters, Harry was like, oh my god, like Charlie and his friend, his weird friend that won't leave me alone. And I'm like, you are the one that initiates all these interactions with the people you bully. Like, I guarantee you Tao's not going to willingly come up to you and start talking to you just so you can bully him. So you're saying that Tao won't leave you alone, when it's actually vice versa. Once Charlie finds out about the fight, he like rushes into the school to go find Nick, and he's in a form, obviously.
What happened? I kind of got into a fight with Harry.
Nick tells him the whole story, and Charlie feels so guilty because he feels like he's putting a wedge between Nick and his friends. When since the beginning, when they first started going out, he's told Charlie that he doesn't really want to be friends with them anymore, and that he's like kind of happy to be away from them because they're just mean people. Like, not all of them are, but the ones that aren't necessarily bullying are enabling Harry's behavior, which is just as bad, to be a bystander. And he feels so guilty because he's like,
I don't really want to be friends with those people anymore. I don't expect you to dump your friends for me. Some other rugby boys are nice. Even they just stood there. I'm tired of all of them.
and Nick tries to tell Charlie, he's like, I don't want to be friends with them. Like, even the ones that aren't necessarily bullying just stood there and watched. So, like, why would I want to be friends with those people? So, Charlie still really doesn't believe him, but he lets it go in the moment. So, moving away from Charlie and Nick for a second, we cut to a scene where Tao and Elle are in the park, or in a park or somewhere, sitting on a bench. And Tao is, like, talking to Elle about the whole, Harry situation and how he just, like, likes to, bully them for no reason. But he also tells Elle that he's been, like, fighting back against Harry to protect Charlie because he feels like Charlie can't protect himself, at least verbally. During this conversation, Tao ends up finding out that Nick and Charlie are going out. And Elle didn't necessarily, like, tell him, but she said something that kind of, like, triggered the question in Tao's head. And he was like,
is there something actually going on between Nick and Charlie? There is, isn't there?
Elle tries to tell him. She's like, well, Charlie said he wants to tell you himself. And she's like, well, at least he said that. And Tao asks Elle, he's like, when did he tell you? And she tells him that it was when they went and got milkshakes. And I don't know the exact timeline of when that was, but Tao says that it was ages ago. So I'm like, I wonder how long ago it was. Like, I wonder how long it's taken him to tell him. Now, I understand why Charlie hadn't told Tao, because Tao doesn't like Nick. Tao doesn't like the rugby team in general, but he really doesn't like Nick. So I've said this in past reviews, but I understand why it's so hard for Charlie to tell him, because imagine, you know, you're dating, or not necessarily dating, but you're like talking to somebody that you really like, but your friend does not like them at all. Yeah, I would kind of withhold information because I'm like, I'm not making you miserable with information about somebody that you don't like. So I totally get why Charlie didn't tell Tao, or why it was taking him so long to tell him. Later that day, Elle ends up coming over because after this, Tao like storms off and he's angry. Not angry at Elle, but just angry at the situation, and he's like, I have to go. So later that day, Elle comes over to Tao's house with cookies. He vents to her about why he's so angry with the whole Charlie and Nick situation. And one of the things that he said that stuck out to me the most is,
once you get into a relationship, friendships don't matter anymore.
I never thought that I would relate to Tao so much because, like I said, I've seen season 1 of this show so many times. And it's really, like, when I watched it last night, it really stuck with me in that moment because... Permission to get vulnerable for a second. I'm not necessarily going to say like that's so true, like once your friends get in relationships, friendships don't matter, but like it's something I'm currently dealing with now, where one of my friends, and also I'm not saying anything bad about my friends, but I don't really expect them to see this because they don't watch my videos, I don't think. But one of my friends is in a relationship currently, and it's not on her. But the timing in which she got in her relationship was very bad for me, because it was during a time where because I only have like 3 best friends. 2 of my other friends were going off to college. One of my friends is going to school in a different state, or now she's not in school, but she's working in a different state. And my other friend is still in state, but she's 4 hours away. And my friend that's in a relationship is still here in our hometown. She lives like 8 minutes away from me. So the timing in which she got in her relationship was really bad because my friends went off to college and work, and then I stopped seeing her. Like, not completely, but it was like the times in which I was seeing her was waning significantly. And this ended up causing some issues between us, and we stopped talking for a few months. Or not necessarily we got mad and stopped talking to each other, but I told her, I was like, I need time, because there were a lot of things going on, and I was angry at her and the situation, and I was like, I'm not willing to talk to you right now because I don't want to say anything that I might regret when I'm angry. So I told her I just need time to process my emotions and things, and I'll reach out to you when I'm ready. Which it took months. It took a few months for me to fully, and I'm still not fully processed. I'm still kind of going through it. We're talking again, but I have not fully processed my emotions. And every time I think I'm ready to talk about it and maybe like fix the issues between me and her partner, there's no issues between us because we don't really talk, but maybe like extend an olive branch, I think back on it and then I get angry all over again, and I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not ready. So with all that being said, Tao is so me. I understand Tao full-heartedly in the situation because it definitely feels like that. When your friends get into relationships and it's like the honeymoon phase and they just want to hang out with that person all the time and they have less time for you, it definitely feels like once your friend gets into a relationship, your friendships don't matter. And even though you know that's not the case, at least not all the time, because for some people it is. But even when you know that's not the case, it's still really difficult to deal with. So little side rant there, but yeah, that's something I'm still processing and dealing with, so we'll see how that goes. So in this next scene, Charlie ends up texting Nick to ask if they can meet up for lunch the next day, because Charlie is having a really hard time accepting the fact that he thinks he's ruining Nick's life because Nick doesn't want to be friends with his friends anymore. So they meet up the next day at lunch, and Charlie basically is telling Nick that like,
The fight with Harry was my fault.
It wasn't it?
It was. I've been making your life really difficult.
so he's like low-key about to break up with him until he finds out that Harry had started messing with Tao, and At this point, Tao is like going through so much, like with Charlie and everything else, and he's like fed up. So he ends up I guess he kind of was the one that initiated the fight. They end up fighting. Long story short, they end up fighting.
Apparently Harry Green's fighting somebody at 10 by the picnic tables.
So they run out there to see what's going on, and once they get out there, Nick ends up pushing Harry off of Tao, and then once Tao gets out of it, then Harry starts fighting Nick again, and I'm like, dude, what is happening right now? Like, what is going on? Charlie goes after Tao, and he's like,
Tao, what happened? Why didn't you tell me about you and Nick? What? I thought we were friends, but I guess you just forgotten about me.
and like, I see both sides so clearly. I relate to Tao because I'm just like, yeah. But then Charlie, I'm just like, you haven't made it easy for Charlie to tell you. And no offense, even if you and your friend are like best friends, like you do everything together, I don't think that your friend owes you any type of explanation when it comes to their relationship or if they're pursuing someone. And I get the fact that he had already told everyone else, but even like me, I feel like if I ever start talking to somebody, I'm not gonna like right off the bat go to my friends and be like, oh my god, I'm talking to someone. Like, I feel like I want to keep it more low key until I know that maybe something could come of it, and then I'll be like, guys, I'm talking to this person, or I'm dating this person. It could go for that long. But yeah, so I can definitely see both sides of, you know, that argument. So that's how we end episode 7. A lot of drama in this episode, I can't lie. But it all gets resolved in this next episode, which we are about to get into. So, episode 8. So we open up episode 8 with Charlie at his house, and I think I said this before in my past reviews, but he has a fake drum set in his room. And, you know, obviously he's feeling some intense emotions, so he has a headset that he connects to his drums so it won't like play out loud, but he's also hitting the drums really hard, so it's still making a lot of noise. So Tori, his sister, comes into his room, and she's like, clearly like he's upset about something. So she, you know, asks him like, are you angry at anything in particular? And he ends up telling her about Ben and about how he feels like he's ruining Nick's life because he's driving a wedge between him and his friends.
Before I met Nick, I was sort of going out with this other guy. He made me feel like I was ruining his life. And now Nick's lost all his friends, and I just feel like maybe I do just ruin people's lives.
And Tori's such a good sister because she doesn't really say anything other than she just hugs him and she says, you're not ruining my life. So after this scene, the next day at school, when he goes to school, he runs into Nick, and I don't think Nick thinks that anything has changed between them. So he sees him and he's like,
Hey. Hey. Did you want to get lunch together? I can't. Sorry.
And Charlie starts to slowly avoid Nick. He's trying to do that thing where he distances himself from someone so that they'll eventually stop talking to him. And then he goes to his coach for the rugby team, and he ends up quitting the rugby team. And his coach, you know, right off the bat, because I think she knows what he goes through when it comes to the rugby team. So she's like, are any of the boys giving you a hard time? Like, do I need to talk to someone? And he's just like, no, like, it's just me. Like, I don't think rugby's for me. In this next scene, we see Nick. I think he's probably looking for Charlie because he goes out to where Nick, Tao, and Isaac usually have lunch. And Tao is the only one at their lunch table. So he goes over to Tao and sits with him. And he ends up talking to Tao about Charlie. And so Tao pretty much just vents to Nick about...
I'm done trying to protect him when he's forgotten I exist. Like, I deserve to be appreciated.
And Nick ends up telling Tao that he thinks that Charlie's avoiding him because he is finding it hard to keep them a secret and having to like sneak around and things like that. And Tao gives Nick some pretty solid advice, and he's like...
He's not going to force you to come out, which is good. You know, he would literally never tell you this, but he probably wants to be something more than secret guy you kiss sometimes on the down low. And if you can't give him more than that, then, I mean, that's fine, but It's always going to make him feel a little bit crap about himself.
Which is true because it's kind of what he went through with Ben. Not nearly as severe, but we all know that when he was with Ben, he felt bad about being with Ben because Ben made him feel like he was this dirty secret that he could never let people know about. So, skipping later into the episode, during sports day, the schools combined for, I'm assuming in England, they call it sports day. In America, we call it field day, which is essentially the same thing, just playing a bunch of sports games and you have to sign up for events. But during sports day, everyone meets up. The two schools combined for sports day, and everyone meets up, Tao, Elle, Isaac, but they hadn't seen Charlie. So Charlie tries to go to Mr. Ajahi's room, his art teacher, to kind of just sit in there and skip out on sports day. And his teacher is going to let him. He's like, I'll let you because I'm a nice teacher. But he also tells him that
when I was at school, I thought that hiding from it all was safer, easier. But sometimes the loneliness was just as bad.
Charlie ends up leaving the classroom and he goes to Tao. At this point, Tao hadn't signed up for an event. So the rugby coach signs him up for the 200-meter dash. And if you've seen the show, you know that Tao can't run. Like, I don't know. He runs like a newborn deer or something. He just can't run. At least not good. So Charlie ends up switching bibs with him so he can run the 200-meter dash for him.
Swap bibs with me. What? Why? You hate running, I'll run it for you. Thanks. It's fine. I'm just sorry.
Which is kind of his way of extending an olive branch and saying like he's sorry for everything, like not telling him and things like that. So Charlie's going to line up for the 200-meter dash, and just so happens that Ben is in this event too, and he walks past Ben and doesn't even look at him. And Ben feels inclined to say,
"You obsessed with me or something?"
And I'm like, yo. It's just the fact that Charlie didn't even look at him. He's like, are you obsessed with me or something? And I'm like, no, that's you. Why are you projecting? Like, literally, oh my God, that's this whole thing. This whole behavior between him and Charlie has just been him projecting his own feelings onto Charlie. Like, dude, I can't. So they run the 200-meter. Obviously, Charlie wins because he can run really fast. And then after the event, after the 200-meter, he goes up to Ben and he basically confronts him and he tells him,
you don't get to have an opinion about anything I do. I understand that you're figuring out your sexuality, but you don't get to make me feel like crap anymore just because you hate yourself.
And then Ben threatens him and is like, do you want me to tell people about you and Nick? And then Charlie comes right back at him and is like, do you want me to tell people about me and you? And I'm like, yeah, because don't forget, you still got a secret too, babe. And he got the receipts. So what are we doing here? So then this boy has the audacity to start crying once Charlie stands up to him. And I'm just like, dude, because I get it. You know, Ben, it's probably really, really hard for him because questioning your sexuality is always scary. And especially in the environment they're in, like he's friends with the rugby team. If that came out, he would be done for. After this, Charlie ends up going to Tao and they apologize to each other and they make up and things like that. And Tao tells Charlie that him and Elle are going to ditch the rest of sports day and go to like an abandoned classroom. And he invites him to come and Charlie's like, no, it's okay, like I'll stay here. Tao and Elle go off to a classroom, like an empty classroom, the art room. And they're just kind of sitting in there like waiting for sports day to be over. And they're talking and things like that. And during this time, when they're in there, they end up having this, like, moment. Or, yeah, it's both of them, but mainly Elle. Because let's not forget that Elle does like Tao. So they're, like, kind of laying on the table and looking at each other. And Elle ends up sitting up. And he does, too. And she almost got the confidence to tell him that she liked him. And he's, like, listening intently. Because he's like, what are you about to tell me? And she ends up chickening out at the last moment.
I was going to tell you something.
What?
You've got the wrong team's face name on.
That's Charlie's fault for swapping bibs with me.
And I find it so incredibly frustrating how oblivious Tao is. Because I'm like, dude, I feel like it's so... I mean, I know it's easy. It's not... Because I'm like, if someone was flirting with me, I would just assume that they're being nice. So you gotta be really, really obvious when it comes to me. Because I'm just like, are they flirting with me or are they just being nice? I can never tell the difference unless you're super blatant about it. So I don't really blame him, but at the same time, I'm just like... So after this, it's finally time for the annual rugby game that they have during sports day. And, you know, Nick goes out and like they're playing and everyone's like counting on Nick's team to win because once again, Nick is the star rugby player of the school. So during the game, Charlie ends up standing up on this, like, I don't know what he was standing on, but it made him taller than the rest of the crowd. And Nick was about to do a field goal. And before he does it, he like looks around the crowd, I'm assuming looking for Charlie. And then once he spots him, he literally ditches the game, like throws or tosses the ball to his coach and like walks off the field in order to go to Charlie. He goes up to Charlie and he ends up taking him into the school so they can talk. And once they're in the school, this whole speech that Nick gives Charlie makes me cry. Because I'm like, this is the sweetest speech I've ever heard. I mean, I don't want to call it a speech, but it's just him like confessing all of his feelings to Charlie. Because he's like,
My life is way better because I met you. I don't care about getting into fights or pissing off my mates or anything like that. It's all worth it to be with you.
and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I would... Do you know what I would do to have someone think of me the way Nick thinks of Charlie? They're just like the sweetest ever, and I want what they have so bad. Like, my standards might be high, but I'm not willing to lower them for anyone. I want what they have, period. That's it. I don't care. Once Nick literally pours his heart out to him, Charlie tells him that he believes him, and they end up making up. So Nick asks him like if he's free on Sunday, and Charlie's like, yeah, why? So on Sunday, he ends up taking him. He won't tell him where he's taking him, but he takes him onto the bus and they're driving somewhere. And once they get there, he's like covering his eyes. But before they can even get there, like Charlie guesses where they are because he hears seagulls. And he ended up taking him to the beach. They're just so cute. This whole montage, like they go into the... Oh my God, stop. Okay, because wait, this is literally like one of my, like when oh my God. If I ever, eventually, when I get into a relationship, I want to do the photo booth, like cliche things, like so bad. They go into the photo booth and they're like taking pictures. Oh my God, it's so cute. Like, I'm such a sucker for literally cliche romance. Like, I can't help it. Oh my God, like when is it my turn? I want to do that so bad. I think that is the cutest thing ever. But... they do all the things, okay? And by the end of this, they're on the beach just kind of like laying on their towels. And Nick ends up telling Charlie that he's been thinking about coming out.
What if I came out? I'm not saying I want to have a public announcement or anything, but I want to tell the people who matter.
And obviously Charlie is really happy about this because it's like another big step within their relationship, which means that, I mean, we all knew, but Nick is like really serious about taking it. I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but taking it all the way with Charlie, like just wanting to be with him and wants people to know that they are together. After this whole scene, this is the scene that really gets me. I love this scene so much. So after the beach, he ends up going home and his mom is there and she's like, oh, you look very happy. Like, did you have a good day? He's like, yeah, I had a good day. And like in that moment, he goes to make himself some tea and he ends up deciding to tell his mom about his sexuality. So he sits down at the table and he's like,
You know, Charlie's like my best friend. He's my boyfriend. I still like girls, but I like boys too.
And you can, like, his face is so, he's scared, which, duh, because it's always scary to come out to anybody that, like, you care about. Even if you know, like, I don't think he knew that his mom was, like, gonna be accepting, but, like, even if you're coming out to your friends and you know that they're gonna be accepting of you, it's still scary, I think, just to say it out loud. So he tells his mom, and obviously she's accepting, and she's like,
Oh, baby. Oh. Oh, thank you for telling me.
and it's just a really cute way to end the season, like him finally coming out to his mom and them deciding that they want to tell people that they care about, that they're going out and things like that. And that's pretty much how we end season 1. First of all, the show itself is great, but this season is so good. Like I said, I've watched it so many times because it's just so cute. We are finally done with season 1, guys. I'm so happy. Oh my god, I love doing these, but like, I don't know, because I've seen season 1 so many times that I'm just like, this is all old information, and I've only seen season 2 once, so I'm really excited to rewatch season 2 and like report back to you guys, because I feel like I'm gonna definitely have forgotten some of the things that happen. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for this review. Let me know what you guys thought of these 2 episodes. Let me know your thoughts. Obviously, I'm open to all opinions. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Obviously, like I said, of your opinions on the 2 episodes or just the show in general, I would be happy to read them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!